So I wanted to talk to everybody because it seems like there's a bit of confusion that's kind of going on at this moment in time in regards to Andoni Iraola. Now, he looks like he's going to be the next Liverpool manager. At the time of this video, it seems like they've progressed in their contract talks. And I think it'll just be a matter of time as to when he's then announced as the new Liverpool manager. Great, no problem. I've got no issues with Iraola, yada, yada, yada. One of the things that I'm constantly hearing, and I think this is also one of the reasons why Slot almost was never really going to win people over, unless obviously he just kept winning, the Premier League or winning trophies, consistently. We keep talking about Jurgen Klopp, Jurgen Klopp, Jurgen Klopp, Jurgen Klopp. We're doing exactly what Manchester United fans were doing. We're doing what the pundits talk about when they speak about Manchester United. We've heard Gary Neville talk about Manchester United and Sir Alex Ferguson, Rio Ferdinand, all of these other guys, right? We can't go down that road of, oh yeah, but it's got to be Klopp style of football. It's very similar to Klopp style of football. Oh, he's very much like Jurgen Klopp. No, he's not Jurgen Klopp. And I think Slot, it's so funny because you win the league, right? Winning the league is always going to be a plus. It's never going to be a minus, right? But it's almost like in this case, he's very close to that. Because he won the league in his first season, it seemed like everything was so seamless. It seemed like everything was easy. And oh my goodness, he's just this guy, has come from Holland and he's just come in here. And after matches, he's talking about, this team and how they play. And this is how you dissect. And this is what they shouldn't have done. And blah, blah, blah. Then he comes up against a PSG, Luis Enrique, and gets completely schooled. And then he's still telling people like, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the type of football, blah, blah, blah. Everything looked rosy in that first season. Liverpool fans, joy, all of this kind of stuff, right? And everything just kind of got clouded, a little bit. His football hasn't changed that much, or Slot's anyway. Slot's football never really changed that much from what it was the season before, right? Yes, certain aspects in terms of maybe player roles and things like that. But in a general sense, it was relatively the same as it was the season before, where it was boring, it was slow, it was really unattractive kind of football. Again, I just felt like it was just one of those kind of things, right? You got the players just seem to be operating at this kind of level, coupled with the fact that Arsenal, Manchester City weren't operating at their own, all of these kind of various different things, but not to take away from Arne Slot, right? He was not Klopp. He was going to be coming in. The data guys at Liverpool, they had, earmarked him out as a manager who this is his style of football. I'm pretty sure at the beginning I heard that his football is close to a Jurgen Klopp, but it's more evolved. It's the evolved version of what Jurgen Klopp would have been or should have been, and blah blah blah, because he can bring in a bit of Pep Guardiola, Roberto De Zerbi, and all these Bielsa, all these other guys, right? All these managers that Arne Slot really really loves, right? So there was all of this kind of going on. My thing, obviously, always with Arne Slot was, if you're going to play that kind of style of football, unfortunately, because it's not pleasing on the eye and you're almost putting people to sleep with your style of football, you have to consistently win. There is no excuses, unfortunately. And obviously now, he's been sacked, and again, his style of football was just bland. But then people then use the fact that, Jurgen Klopp was this charismatic individual. He was someone who was, very affectionate with the fans. He was basically like one of our own, essentially, right? And that's absolutely fine. That is Jurgen Klopp. And again, like I said, it sounds like the same thing that Manchester United fans kind of reminisce with Sir Alex Ferguson when they're talking about the good times, right? You're going to do that, just like Barcelona would have done with Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola leaves, and I guess for them it's a little bit different because they were still winning, once he had kind of left. But there's always that kind of, this is our football, this is our style, this is what we're going to do. So when a Hansi Flick then comes in and is a little bit different, isn't so tiki-taka and does like to go a tad bit more direct, you can hear people kind of, I wouldn't say lambasting, but I would definitely say they're a little bit cautious with him. I don't even feel like they've fully taken to him. But again, that can easily change if your team starts winning more trophies or winning a lot more consistently, i.e. they've just gone back to back, right? And I think that's my thing with Iraola, is that Yes, I'm not even going to sit here and say, well, we'll do tactic talks. Once he's officially been announced and things like that, we can look at the tactics. We can look at the style of play. What I don't want is when he comes in, I don't like. There's going to be a burden. I get it because it's Liverpool. He's making that jump up to the kind of next level. Can he do it? Is his football going to work with certain players? We don't know yet. We really, really don't know until he actually gets through the door and we can see what that kind of looks like. I just don't want that Jurgen Klopp kind of pressure. It's so similar to Jurgen Klopp. It's the pressing, it's the counter attacks, it's the football, it's the directness, it's no. We were supposed to have moved on from a Jurgen Klopp, hence why getting in Arne Slot, obviously at the time, in terms of his style of football, was supposed to be some form of evolution. Obviously, it didn't work out. That's not an issue. Getting in someone else who is very akin to that, in my opinion, that's when I start looking at things and it's a bit like it, you almost you might get a bye this season, obviously depending on how bad, obviously, or good Liverpool, kind of do, right? So let's say Liverpool finish third or fourth, which is kind of what I predict anyway. So let's say they finish in and around third or fourth, Champions League football, don't win anything, but the football is just a lot better than it was last season, right? I feel like you might get away with that potentially, unless it's obviously poor. But if it is then poor, are we going to be like, oh yeah, because he's not as charismatic, or because he's not that affectionate with the fans? And again, I have no idea what he's going to be like with fans. Do I think he should be? Because you're at a club like Liverpool, I almost feel like it's almost like by default. These are things that you should probably know before taking the job. Hence why a lot of people did want Xabi Alonso, because he already has that relationship with the fans. He's already seen as like a cult hero here anyway. So it's not going to be so hard for him to be able to understand the city, the fans, the people in all of that kind of stuff. Whereas obviously Iraola hasn't really done that and doesn't know Liverpool, doesn't know the fans. So he has to immerse himself, within that in itself. I'm not saying you have to be Jurgen Klopp level, of course not, but there does need to be, let's put it this way, there is a space in between Jurgen Klopp and Arne Slot. One, they're both at the other side of the spectrum. You can be right smack a bang in the middle. Ultimately, people will not care if you are winning. I promise you that. If you're winning games and you're winning titles and you're winning trophies, nobody's going to sit here and look at you sideways anyway, even if they don't like the football, like myself included, didn't like Arne Slot's football, but you won the league. Keep doing that. Cool. I can get with that. But if you're not, that's when the problems will, kind of come in. And I just think I'm just hearing a lot, because Jurgen Klopp's style of football was his kind of style of football. It needed to evolve. So if you feel that Iraola is that evolution, which I don't think he would be now anyway, just by default, but if you do feel like that is the evolution in terms of similar to that, but it's evolved in some way, maybe it's a bit more football, oriented, maybe it's a bit more smarter in certain aspects of the game, and in terms of game states and things like that, then no problem. Again, I don't really know, because there wasn't like abundance of managers that were just available kind of thing. Everyone had their dream Luis Enrique, but that was always going to be basically impossible, for it to kind of happen. Why would he kind of, would I say, quote unquote, step down at this stage when he's just gone back to back? So are we just picking someone like an Iraola just more due to the fact that maybe he's just the best available, at this current moment in time? If so, again, I don't even have a massive, would I say, problem with that. What I just don't want is from the fans to keep kind of likening it to Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp, yeah, oh, he's so similar to a Jurgen Klopp. Oh, yeah, he does the same kind of. No, he is Andoni Iraola. That is Jurgen Klopp. We have to get away from Jurgen Klopp now. That is what holds these kind of clubs back. That is what's going to be the issue for Liverpool and for the fan, well, mainly for the fan base, should I say, is if you're still trying to live in that kind of world where it's got to be like Klopp. No, it doesn't. It really, really doesn't. We've got to move on from that. We need to evolve. Something that Liverpool lacked for a long, long period of time until now we've gotten ourselves to this kind of position. Evolve with the times. Don't stay behind, because once you start to stay behind, that's when issues start to kind of come about. And I just think that for me is the main thing. Expectations and all of that, listen, we can talk about that on another video, but I just think for me that is one of the key things when he comes here, is just if things go bad, he loses a couple of games here and stuff like that, or I don't know, he doesn't speak when he's you know what I mean? Like he may get to a situation where things maybe not going so great. I don't know, in the first month of the season, or I don't know, whatever kind of happens. I don't want it to keep referring back, because that's all that kept happening with Slot, especially towards the end. Now we're picking at things that people were kind of almost in awe of in his first season. Oh, he's a bit on the cold shoulder, but I like it. He's a straight talker. I like it. He's very honest. I like it. Oh, he's very tactical. He seems very knowledgeable, which, by the way, I think he actually is. But he seems very knowledgeable, and he's talking about this, and he seems to understand that. Oh, I like it. When things go wrong, though, straight away, it's, I don't really like. That's arrogant. Who does he think he is? Why is he talking like that? Did he even watch the game? All of these things that guys, we saw it. Some of you did it. Some of you did it. You know, whoever's watching this, you were probably one of the ones who did that. And it's almost that kind of, I guess, muscle memory kind of thing, you know, in terms of you've seen something for so long, you liked it. You hope the next, would I say, chapter of the story of Liverpool would be almost similar to that, and then evolved in some way, shape, or form, right? But sometimes it just doesn't really work out like that. And I don't want, you know, someone like an Iraola to come and now it's, yeah, he's like, I don't want him to be Jurgen Klopp at all. I really don't. I don't want anything to do with Jurgen Klopp anymore, because he's not a manager at Liverpool anymore. Your time is now done. Your time is now done. We are now in a different space as a football club. So let's see what Iraola can do, if of course he is the new manager, and we kind of just take it from there, and we take him for who he is. And I think once you accept that, Bob's your uncle, fan is your aunt, as they like to say. But let me know your thoughts, people, in the, you know, in the comment section and stuff like that. Like, are you one of those people who are sitting there thinking, yeah, you know what, you've watched, I don't know, a couple of the videos, heck, you might have watched one of my videos, you might have watched a video that was online, and you're speaking as if Iraola is a Jurgen Klopp? If so, let me know why in the comment section, and let me know, is that going to be something that you're going to almost measure him by? Because I would love to know, and I'd love to know the reason why, because I do feel like you are giving him, it's almost a bit of a handicap before he's even really started the job, you know, kind of thing. It's not Jurgen Klopp. He is Andoni Iraola. Guys, keep the same energy, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys real soon, man. Boom.